welcome to Beyond the Bio. My guest today is someone who isn't afraid to challenge the so-called best practices of marketing and has the results to back it up. Jay Schwedelson has built and led businesses generating over $400 million in revenue by doing what most marketing people won't: testing, questioning, and reinventing the rules. He's the founder of SubjectLine.com, the world's #1 free subject line rating tool. It's tested more than 20 million subject lines and ranks in the top 1% of all websites globally. Jay's also the CEO of Outcome Media, the creator of Guru Media Hub, and host of the #1 marketing podcast in the US, Do This, Not That. I first saw Jay speak at Social Media Marketing World earlier this year, and he was hands down my favorite speaker. He was full of energy, giving so much value, and proudly admitting his love for trash TV, which made me like him even more. In this episode, we're getting into the real stuff. So why email marketing still works, how to bring more personality to your campaigns, what it takes to land the world's biggest speakers, and how his podcast has become a major part of his brand. So get ready, because this one is packed with insights that you can use straight away. So Jay, welcome to Beyond the Bio. I'm very, very excited to have you on the show.
Well, I don't believe that, but I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun. You have a great show, so thanks for inviting me.
I am genuinely excited. And I always say to my team, every time I listen to one of your podcasts, and your podcast comes out a lot, so I probably listen to a lot of them because it's the perfect time for me when I get the train into work. Your show's about 10 minutes or so long. I really like the bits where it's really punchy, actionable tips rather. But also, I really like it when you talk about crap TV, because I'm a big fan of trash TV. I am really doing Love is Blind at the moment. Married at First Sight UK. I'm right up to date on that. I don't know if you get that over there. Do you get married at... Yeah, it's so
all the
good.
things. I will tell you in general, I think that the UK versions of all these reality shows are better than the US versions. Like Love is Blind UK is exponentially better than Love is Blind US. So I just think I need to move over and be your next door neighbor.
Yeah, that would be so fun. Although you hate people, so
that's true. I do. I don't hate people. I hate being around people.
Okay, yeah. I get that. I want to pick your brains about all the amazing things that you know about email marketing and all these kinds of things. So let's kick off with why email still works, because there's so many other things that are distracting us at the moment in the world of TikTok, LinkedIn, endless content. Why do you think that email marketing is still delivering such powerful results, particularly for building personal brands and driving sales?
Yeah, I think in general, social media is getting harder and harder to get, not only to get organic traffic, but to get anything out of organic traffic. Like I had a post on TikTok this past weekend. It went viral, and I barely put anything on TikTok. I got 700,000 views on this one post I did, and I got 0 out of that. Not a single person that followed me or sent me a message was useful in any way, shape, or form. And on Instagram, for example, organic reach is down so much year over year. And so having something that you own, or a piece of real estate that you own, like your email database, that you can really control when it's going out, what you're saying, how to get it converted. I think we're in this renaissance of email marketing where, because social is getting more complicated for organic reach, your email list is the most important asset in your company.
I totally agree. And it's so interesting. I just did an article about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's my main platform. Like I love LinkedIn. Instagram. I love LinkedIn as well. I think you can get so much from it. But it's so interesting that the posts that do the best for me, the ones that do go viral, and I do pretty well on LinkedIn, they aren't the ones that convert to the sales. They're just the ones that people want to get ranty about or have a view on. It's rare that they do convert to sales, whereas it's the ones where we're putting something out through the newsletter that is then converting to a sale, and it might have a really low interest rate, but it doesn't matter, because if you're selling stuff, and I think sometimes we get a bit too sucked into the ego of, hey, I got 1,000 likes on this post, and it distracts us maybe.
100%.
So you've analyzed millions of subject lines and thousands of campaigns. What do you think separates a good email from a great one?
Well, first of all, it's getting the email opened. everyone has it backwards, right? So all we do is we think about, okay, I'm going to write this email. It's the best copy. I got the right images. I got the right offer. My landing page is great, all the things. And what we don't think about is if we don't get the email opened, who actually cares about all that work? So there are things, for example, in the subject line that you can do that can radically change how many people open up your emails. I'll give you a couple of examples. So when you think about your subject line, everyone's always like, how many characters should it be? Should it be less than 50, less than 60, whatever. It's an irrelevant thing because nobody actually reads the entire subject line. You can write Jay's a big fat loser at the end of the subject line. No one would see it because no one reads the whole thing. They read the first few characters, first word or two, and then they decide. So if you start your subject line, for example, with a number, the 7 pitfalls to avoid, the 3 things you need to know, the 5 most important things for 2026, an actual number, it'll increase your open rates by about 20%. If you start your subject line with a fully capitalized word or phrase where all the letters are capitalized, just in, just released, new, and all the letters are capitalized, it'll increase your open rates by about 15%. Think about the first few characters, the first word or two of that subject line, because that is going to be a determining factor of whether or not people go further. And the way that email works is really simple. It's like a chain. If the subject line's good, they'll go on, see the pre-header. If the pre-header's good, they'll open up and see the headline, and then they'll keep on going. If any chain, as you're going along, is not good and it breaks, that's where the person will just disappear and not engage.
And one of the biggest questions that I hear people say is, how often should I be emailing my list? What tips have you got around frequency, and how do you avoid burning people out but still staying top of mind?
Yeah, send out more. Okay. And in general, send out more. People think, oh, the reason that our email is not performing or we're getting unsubscribes or whatever it may be is because we're sending out too much. We're bothering people. Okay. That couldn't be further from the truth. You're not going to send out less and get more business. That's just really bad math. Okay. The problem is that frequency is directly tied to relevancy. What you're sending out really dictates if you can send out more. So first is you have to give value. Stop just selling stuff. Stop just putting out your offer. When's the last time you sent out an email that was purely providing value, ungated pages, content, nothing? You're asking for nothing. Here's value. But then when you're thinking about, okay, great, now I'm providing value, when should I send? People make the mistake and they're like, oh, my best performing day is Tuesdays in the morning, right? I'm going to send out on Tuesday in the morning.
Send our newsletter out Tuesday
There you
in the
go.
morning.
Right. This is my best day. All right. And so we don't send it out on Friday because Tuesday is better. And that is not really the way to think about email marketing. The way you want to think about email marketing is that everybody in your database is a different type of person. I read email, for example, late at night. I catch up on a lot of emails on Sunday morning. I very rarely will consume a newsletter or whatever on Tuesday morning, for example. Right. And so it's never about your best day. You want to be sending to your database many times at very, very different times. So you send that newsletter out on Tuesday morning, send it out again, okay, on Friday afternoon, send it out again on Sunday midday, because it's not, oh, Sunday doesn't do as well for us as Tuesday. These are two different things. You're hitting two different populations of people. And you need to treat your database that way because it's about how many people are opening in aggregate, unique people. It's not what's my highest open rate, what's my highest click-through rate. So you want to be sending out more at different times, maybe 10 p.m. at night, maybe 4 p.m. on a Sunday. And then don't be turned off by unsubscribes. If somebody says, take me off your list, okay, it's very jarring. I can't believe you keep sending me this. You're bothering me. It sticks in your brain. We always remember, that stuff. And a few things. Number one, that doesn't hurt your deliverability. You don't go to the junk folder or spam folder because of unsubscribes. It has nothing to do with that performance. And you shouldn't be for everybody, right? Getting unsubscribes could actually mean you've done something really good. Why do I say that? Let's say you listen to this episode and you're like, that guy Jay talked really fast. He's slightly annoying, but I'm going to test putting a number at the start of my subject line. So now you put a number at the start of your subject line and oh my goodness, this email we send out, it got a higher open rate. We got a click-through rate that was really high, higher than normal, but we got a lot more unsubscribes than normal. So that guy Jay is clueless, which may be true. But what really happened was the person in your database, because you used that number, your email stood out to them for the first time in a long time, right? They opened it up and they're like, wait a minute, why am I on this list? I'm not in this industry anymore. My job changed. I don't care about this thing. And they're unsubscribing. So your unsubscribes went up, not because you did something bad, but because you finally stood out, for the first time. And in general, if you're for everybody, then you're for nobody. So you want to get the people off your list that aren't your people, and you can't have a raving fan without having people that you turn off. It's just the way it goes.
Mm-hmm. So if you were giving advice to me, you know a little bit about my business, and at the moment we are sending out one email on a Tuesday morning, and we've kind of gone from what felt a bit more like newslettery style. We've kind of changed that up the last couple of weeks, so it looks better. I think it's adding more value. It's more interesting. But should we be sending more out than just this once a week newsletter?
Well, two things I'll tell you. 100%. Number one, as it relates to the newsletter, 48 hours after you send out your newsletter, you should take everyone who didn't open it originally, and then you should send it out again with a different subject line. The subject line that says something along the lines of, oops, you missed this, or I think you scrolled past this, something where you are acknowledging the fact that they did not open it the first time. And you will find you'll get another 20% or so people opening it up. And the truth of the matter is, anybody out there puts out a newsletter, they know it's a heavy lift. It's a lot of work. Every time you hit send, you're like, thank God I got this thing out. I don't want to think about this again. And then it comes back again. I can't believe I have to do this again. And to only press the button one time and to send it out one time for that effort, it's just not okay. It's a lot of content, to put out that effort. So sending it out within 48 hours, changing that subject line is a must do. But in general, the way that you stay in somebody's inbox now, as opposed to the junk or spam folder, it's very strange. It has everything to do with the volume of engagement that you as a sender, your domain, your IP address, all of it, the volume of opens and clicks and interactions that you as a sender are receiving and generating. So the irony is, if you don't send out enough email, and by the way, once a week really is really not it. Really, the number is it has to be at least over 5 times per month. If you're not sending out at least 5 times a month to your database, you're likely not able to generate enough opens, clicks, and interactions to actually keep the overwhelming majority of your emails in the inbox, because the receiving email infrastructures are looking to see, are you getting enough clicks, opens, interactions? And by sending it once a week, it's very hard to generate enough. So the weirdest thing about email is people think if you send out less, it'll do better. But if you send out less, you're actually hurting yourself from a technical standpoint, which is really weird.
What do you think about when someone's doing a launch? So we've got a members club that we're launching at the end of November, and this will be the first time we've ever launched something like that. And I've observed people doing their launches who literally send emails every single day, and that's felt a bit overwhelming to me on the receiving end. Is there a happy sort of balance between what we're doing and every day, or do you just have to go with what you're saying there around, look, if it's not for someone, they're going to unsubscribe, and that's okay?
It's really about how thick is your skin, right? And the reason I say that is there's no doubt that by sending more, you will get more business. It's just a fact. You will, right? But by sending more, you will get a lot more blowback. Why are you doing this? You've turned me off. I never want to work with you. I would never consider your membership. Who do you think you are? You're annoying. All of that. So a lot of people say, oh, that won't bother me, blah, 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 whatever. But it does. It does. I mean, for my business, for example, we put on this very large virtual conference called Guru Conference. We inundate people. Like, it is out of control how much that we send. And every time I'm in a meeting, I'm like, send more. I go, tell me the downside. They're, well, it's upsetting people. I'm like, who cares? Take them off our list. But if you don't have that inner fortitude, and I'm not saying it's the right way to be, because it's not maybe the best user experience overall, but I'm just trying to get this thing out there. So it's like, where do you land on that spectrum?
Yeah, I think we need to definitely push a bit further for sure. And it's interesting hearing you talking about, a Sunday doesn't work or whatever, or people having that perception, because probably most people don't ever even send them then. So how do they even know? And this is why your advice is so right, because you've tested all this stuff. Whereas we put ours out on a Tuesday morning, but based on what? Nothing. We've never sent an email on a weekend or on an evening or any of these things.
And by the way, you should. Business to business click-through rates on emails on Sundays in particular, year over year, are up over 60%. So you need to be, it's very important in real estate, because for a lot of decision makers, it's their time where they can consume long form email. They're not getting Slack messages or all this other garbage. And the most important thing is to never be like, Sunday didn't do as well as Tuesday. You can't think like that. You should have benchmarks for your weekend, benchmarks for during the week, benchmarks for promotional email, benchmarks for newsletters. It's not, our email marketing gets an average of 40% open rates and 3% click-throughs. That's ridiculous, because everything you're doing should be in its own benchmark, and you just have to beat yourself every time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting really into this now, actually, since you were doing the talk in at Social Media Marketing World and talking about all these stats. And I was like, we need to understand this better. And, I wanted to hire people that are more interested in geeking out on this stuff, because I could be that person, I think, but I haven't got enough time. I'm doing other stuff. So I need someone else that can get really as excited and have the time to monitor this stuff and be really into it. So interesting. I want to talk about your podcast, because as I said earlier, I really love your podcast. I like that it's short. I like that it covers lots of useful things and also not useful things, but that's more fun. So I love all of that. But your podcast has become really big. So I think it's the #1 marketing podcast in the US. That is huge. And like I say, I send episodes sometimes to the team and say, you need to listen to this one because this is relevant to what we're talking about. But tell me, what impact has the podcast had on your personal brand and your business? And what advice would you give as well to someone that's thinking about launching a podcast to grow their visibility?
Yeah, I will tell you that it's been a really interesting journey for me. So I've been podcasting now for 2 years. And when I first started the podcast, I asked everybody, how do you do a podcast? What should I do? And I followed everybody's playbook. And the playbook that I followed, and this is you're very good at interviewing. I am not. Okay. When I started my podcast, I did these long form interviews. Like, okay, I'm going to get whoever on. We would sit there for an hour and I would talk to them. And I would find myself during those long form interviews, I was bored to tears. I didn't even want to be there. And I realized I wasn't a particularly good interviewer. And I was like, I didn't start a podcast to just try to be this person that interviews people, because what am I doing? And so and it was doing terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. And I was like, what am I doing? So I took a step back and I said, what am I trying to accomplish here? And when I did that, I realized two things. Number one, I want to have a podcast, and should be your North Star for everybody that starts a podcast. I started my podcast not for downloads, not for sponsors, not to be on a chart of top whatever. I wanted to meet cool people that otherwise weren't giving me the time of day. So it was what I call an account-based marketing play, right? So I wanted to meet Neil Patel. I wanted to meet Alex Lieberman from Morning Brew. I wanted to meet all these people, and if I would email them, nothing, zero, crickets. But then when I had my podcast, I'm like, hey, Neil Patel, you want to come on my podcast? Blah, blah, blah. Sure. So it gave me this opportunity to befriend these people, right? And that to me is numero uno. That should be the reason you start a podcast. But separate from that, I'm like, I'm a crappy interviewer. These long form interviews are terrible. Nobody really, it's great for me to meet the people. But then how am I to get this thing out there? And I realized, okay, what do people actually want, right? And they want quick bites that they could take away, that they can try new things, that they could do whatever. And I actually found the shorter I went, the more it got consumed. And just like anything else, there's an algorithm. There's a podcast algorithm. And the way the podcast algorithm works is that if there are a lot of downloads occurring, right, then they move you up in the algorithm, they move you up in the charts, all the things. So by having short form, like these 10-minute episodes, and a lot of them, then when someone starts listening to my podcast, they may consume like 4 episodes as opposed to somebody who has an hour-long one. And when somebody consumes 4 episodes, instantly that boosts my podcast everywhere and all that stuff. When I figured that out, I'm like, okay, great. But then the last piece of podcasting really is the podcast itself is the least important part. If you're not taking that podcast and chopping it up into clips, don't just post the whole podcast somewhere, but chopping it up into clips and using it everywhere, then you're wasting your time and energy, because the clipping of your podcast is more valuable, honestly, than the podcast itself.
That's such great advice. And when you were doing those longer form ones, how often were they coming out?
Well, I was trying to do them weekly. Okay. And I've messed around with every type of format. The funny part is I've done every format you can imagine. So our most popular format that we do now is something called Ask Us Anything, where we have a form on our website, and we say, go to this website and you could ask any question. And we say, you could put in a question about work, about nonsense, about whatever. And then the episode is that we answer one work question and one ridiculous question. And the reason I think it has done well is that everyone really has the same issues that they're dealing with. And whatever industry you're in, I would recommend doing this, because first of all, it's a great way it's hard to come up with content after a while. It just is. I mean, I've done 550 episodes. I mean, I'm sick of myself, right? So it's much easier when someone's like, hey, I'm dealing with this issue. How do you solve this issue? Like, oh, okay, I'll just answer that. So, and people like that. It's more kind of human, whatever. So I would just think about formats very, very differently.
How many submissions do you get? How many questions?
We get about, I don't know, 15 to 20 a week, I would say.
Cool. So certainly
Yeah,
enough
that's cool.
to choose from and to pick the best ones. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, and what else we do is like if we go to a trade show or whatever, somebody on my team will walk around with a microphone, like a little mic, and literally we just did this last week at a trade show, and just say, "Hey, do you want to submit a question?" You get on mic, and we got I think 100 questions that way, and then you're good. I mean, that's it.
That's a really good idea. I might have to steal that maybe. So you mentioned before about the Guru conference, and you have had some amazing speakers. When I look at the speakers you've had, like Sarah Jessica Parker, obviously I love her, Martha Stewart, amazing people. How do you actually make that happen? What's been key to getting these people to say yes?
It's funny. So we do these virtual events, and while everyone's like, do an in-person event, that'd be so cool. And the reason I do my events virtually is, first of all, they're free, and I want everyone to be able to go because I like kind of like the Big Ten. I want everyone to be there. But what I also realized, it doesn't even matter. Yeah, so we got like Nicole Kidman coming up, or this one or that one, and getting the amazing celebrities is one thing, but also getting people that are big brand people or big whoever people. It's much easier for these important people to say yes to a 30-minute virtual session than doing something in person. So when we hit up Sarah Jessica Parker or Nicole Kidman or Amy Porterfield or Donald Miller or Neil Patel or whoever, and say 30-minute recorded, sometimes live, sometimes whatever, we get a lot more yeses than if it was in person. And it's a numbers game, honestly. So if you're like, oh, I want to try that, again, you have to handle rejection well, because for every yes that we get, we probably get 50 sorry I can't make it.
But do you find now that you've had such big names on, it's a bit easier because you can say, well, Sarah Jessica Parker was on, why would you not want to be on?
Yes, that's exactly. The first year was the hardest year because everyone's like, I'm doing a virtual event about email marketing, like, are you kidding me? But now that we've had a lot of very famous big people, they're like, oh, if they did it, I'll do it. And there's a trust factor there. But I'll tell you, that first year of anything you're going to do you just have to crush it that first year.
And you must have big numbers of people tuning in now as well. That's then going to back that up even more. So that they'll love that for the ego.
Yeah. So this year at Guru Conference, which is free and virtual, you can go to guruconference.com. It will have between 25 to 30,000 people worldwide. So it'll be a lot. And the other trick that we do if anybody does virtual out there, we don't do on demand. So we do something called earned on demand, which I recommend to everybody. I don't know if we invented it. We might have. But basically, for our 2-day conference, if you don't show up for at least 1 hour to the event, you don't get the on demand link, no matter what. And so that keeps our show up rates at about 70% for a free virtual event. So if you're going to do a webinar, you're going to do a whatever, think about this idea of not having on demand. I think it's a growing trend because I think on demand is where opportunity goes to die.
That's something I've been thinking about a lot because we're going to be doing I'm calling them live events now because I learned from you not to call them webinars, right? So we're doing a live event or a masterclass for our launch for our members club. So we're going to do 4 live events where all online, where people can show up and they'll get a free 90-minute masterclass to help them plan their visibility for 2026. And the idea being it then leads through to hopefully them joining our members club because that's then going to help them implement it next year. And we're having a debate at the moment around whether we're going to record it and let people see the replay or not. So yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think you need to have a reason to show up. So let's say you want to have on demand. What you may want to think about, which is another big trend, is the idea of attend to receive, meaning that if you show up live, you're going to get the 2026, playbook for blah, blah, blah. And you push that hard in your promotions. You don't just kind of do it the day of. You're like, anyone who shows up live is going to get this. But if you don't show up live, you're not going to get this thing, this piece of content. And this idea of attend to receive is another way to kind of play the game of, if you still want to have on demand, there needs to be a reason that people show up live. If not, the show up rates stink.
Yeah, I agree. And it'll be so much more engaging if loads of people show up as well. And
Totally.
I mean, we've got 4 options and we're doing them at different times on different days. So there's going to be a slot that everyone would be able to do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, still need to give that some thought. Okay, right. Last question. You are at the center of what is happening in marketing. What trends or innovations are you most excited about right now?
I mean, of course, you have to say AI. Everybody has to say AI. And the problem that we are trying to do is we're trying to make sure that we were leveraging, frankly, with my own company, AI too much for our content generation, for all the things. And we realized basically what we were doing was putting out a lot of, mediocre stuff. That's what we were doing. And so the biggest push for us right now is almost un-AIing our marketing, using AI as more of a operations thing where we're, moving faster, but we've really gone away from using AI for content generation and content manipulation. And I do think that that's a trend that we're going to see more and more of. And then the other piece is stop trying to build up your followers on Instagram or anywhere, because followers are really not leading to organic traffic. So it's really more of trying to double down on content. If you see content working somewhere, double down and use that, but not trying to grow your followers, just trying to get reach with different pieces of good content, because the follower game, I think, is dying.
Awesome. Oh, Jay, it's been so fun talking to you. If anyone listening, because we've got a lot of UK people listening who amazingly might not have heard of you yet, but they will.
Great.
Where's the best place for them to find you?
Well, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of horrible memes, which is great. And then I have started on Instagram, so it's my full name, Jay Schwedelson. And I even have a YouTube channel now, which is really not going well, but I'm trying to figure it out. And that's just my last name, @Schwedelson, because YouTube's the future of life. So I would love to connect with everybody everywhere and appreciate it.
Amazing. I'll pop those links in the show notes to make it super easy for people to connect with you.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you're serious about growing your profile, take our free profile assessment quiz to see where you're at right now and get hints and tips on how to improve your score. You'll find the link to the quiz in the show notes. If you've enjoyed the episode, it would be mint if you'd subscribe, like, and leave a review. See you next Monday.